Outages suck. Outages of core tools like NPM, Gitlab, and more suck even worse. So why did all these things just go down? There was a moment a few days ago where NPM was out, GitLab was out, and a bunch of other random tools and technologies people use all the time were just down. I heard about it because somebody was hitting me up about their product, and I quickly went to go check it out. And when I went to their website, just their homepage, I got an error that worker KV wasn't behaving. And it was weird to see that worker KV was taking down a random marketing site. I went and looked into it a bit more to see if there was an outage going on, and sure as hell, there was a giant outage at CloudFlare. And it wasn't just CloudFlare that was affected. There was a ton of other projects and big things that we rely on every day that were taken down with it. What exactly happened, and what are we going to do about it? Well, thankfully, the Cloudflare team's already posted a postmortem about what happened and why, and I want to take the time to read that with y'all today. Cloudflare incident on October 30th, 2023, written by Matt Silverlock and Chris Evans. Matt's a homie, really good dude. He was keeping us up to date on my tweets the whole time throughout the outage. I know this dude means very well, and it was awesome hearing from him as quickly and consistently as we did. So let's take a look at what he had to say. Multiple Cloudflare services were unavailable for 37 minutes on October 30th, 2023. This was due to the misconfiguration of a deployment tool used by Worker KV. For those who aren't familiar, Worker KV is Cloudflare's key value store that's used heavily for everything from caching to managing user data to everything in between. It's a really common solution for edge-based data management, and people use it for a lot of stuff, as well as Cloudflare using it internally for a ton of things, including pages. So Cloudflare Pages is their alternative to something like Vercel, where you link a project and can auto-deploy it. So Worker KV being down means a lot of those other things go down too. This was a frustrating incident made more difficult by Cloudflare's reliance on our own suite of products. We are deeply sorry for the impact it had on customers. What follows is the discussion of what went wrong, how the incident was resolved, and the work we are undertaking to ensure it does not happen again. This is a phenomenal opening for an outage report. Immediately opening with how bad things were. 37 minutes of downtime. That's massive and bad. This was due to specifically a misconfiguration. So they call out second sentence, what actually went wrong. Third sentence, acknowledging how frustrating it is, which is important again, because we're all frustrated with it. Made more difficult by Cloudflare's reliance on our own suite of products, acknowledging an internal failure that caused this to be problematic and why it escalated the way it did. Immediately following that with an apology, acknowledging that this we're sorry that we fucked up is different from we're sorry for the impact this had on customers, because they know how bad this affected people. What follows is a discussion of what went wrong, how the incident was resolved, and the work we are undertaking to ensure it does not happen again. Really good opening. Worker KV is our globally distributed key value store. Looks like I didn't need to explain it. They did it for me. It is used by both customers and Cloudflare teams alike to manage configuration data, routing lookups, static asset bundles, authentication tokens, and other data that needs low latency access. During this incident, KV returned what it believed was a valid HTTP 401 status code instead of the requested key value pairs due to a bug in the new deployment tool used by KV. Totally believable that it's just always returning 401s. These errors manifested differently for each product depending on how KV is used by each service, with their impact detailed below. Oh boy, it's going to be interesting to see how different things were affected in different ways. What was impacted? A number of Cloudflare services depend on Worker KV for distributing configuration, routing information, static, and authentication globally. These services instead received an HTTP 401 error when performing any get, put, delete, or list operation against the KV namespace. I want to see if I can find the picture of the website I went to that was down, because it was a very funny outage. So I want to be very clear, this is not me shaming the website that was affected by this, because a lot of people were affected by this. I went to jam.dev. This is what I got. Jam could not serve this request. Cloudflare KV is unavailable. Please try again. So a lot of different services handled this a lot of different ways. And as far as I know, they were just using Pages. So that was a generic error Pages was giving. What was impacted? Said this already. Services instead received 401. Customers using the following Cloudflare products would have observed heightened error rates and/or would have been unable to access some or all features for the duration of the incident. Escalating each part of the sentence feels a little weird. I would have started with the acknowledgement of some users had most features not work, but start with the fact that there were people who were really, really severely impacted, and then mention the observed higher error rates. Because starting with the heightened error rates, yeah, that's annoying, but then literally some sites weren't working at all. Applications hosted on Pages were unreachable for the duration of the incident and returned HTTP 500 errors to users. New Pages deployments also returned HTTP 500 errors to users for the duration. So yeah, Pages was just broken throughout. And Worker KV obviously was significantly impacted as well. Access. Users who were unauthenticated could not log in. Any origin attempting to validate the JWT using certs endpoint would fail. Any application with the device, posture, policy failed for all users. So far, it's seeming like everyone was hit with this. Overall, a large percentage of existing sessions were still affected. Yeah. Users were unable to register new devices or connect. Images API returned errors. It looks like basically all of the core Cloudflare features and functionality, other than their like DDoS protection, was down. And here's their timeline. Worker KV team began a progressive deployment of a new KV build. Internal progressive deployment API returned staging build to a call list production builds. Continued to roll out the release, routed a percentage of traffic to the wrong destination, triggering alerts and leading the decision to roll back. Rollback, attempted traffic starts to fail at scale. So it was the rollback where problems started. CloudFlare engineers manually edit via break glass mechanisms deployment routes to revert to last known good build for majority of traffic. Error rates return to normal. Impact resolved. As shown in the above timeline, there was a delay between the time we realized we were having an issue in 1954 and the time we were actually able to perform the rollback at 2015. This was caused by the fact that multiple tools within Cloudflare rely on Worker KV, including Cloudflare Access. Access leverages Worker KV as part of its verification process. Due to this, we were unable to leverage our internal tooling and had to use break glass mechanisms to bypass the normal tooling. That's a bit scary. As described below, we have not spent sufficient time testing the rollback mechanisms. We plan to harden this moving forward. Good call out, being honest that they've not tested this enough and they have to harden it going forward. Resolution. Cloudflare engineers manually switched via the break glass mechanism the production route to the previous working version of Worker KV, which immediately eliminated the failing requests and subsequently resolved the issues with the Worker KV deployments. Analysis. Worker KV is a low latency key value store. Cool, we know what it is now. Let's go see if this is possible. The Worker KV team was progressively deploying a new release using a specialized deployment tool. The deployment mechanisms contain a staging and a production environment and utilize a process where the production environment is upgraded to the new version at progressive percentages until all production environments are upgraded to the most recent production build. This deployment tool had a latent bug with how it returns releases in the respective versions. Instead of returning releases from a single environment, the tool returned a broader list of releases than intended, resulting in production and staging releases being returned together. In this incident, the service was deployed and tested in staging, but because of the deployment automation bug, when promoted to production, a script that had been deployed to the staging account was incorrectly referenced instead of the pre-production version of the production account. As a result, the deployment mechanism pointed the production environment to a version that was not running anywhere in the production environment, effectively black holing traffic. Interesting. I also love the use of Excalidraw. Production account, staging account, and it was sending 50% of traffic to a thing that doesn't exist in its box. When this happened, Worker KV became unreachable in production as calls to the product were directed to a version that was not authorized for production access, returning a 401 error code. Although automated alerting detected the issue immediately, there was a delay between the time we realized we were having an issue and the time we were actually able to perform the rollback. And this is again caused by the fact they couldn't access their internal tools because Cloudflare Access, their auth layer, happens to be built on top of the same technology that had these bugs. These tools include the dashboard, which is used to revert the changes. Yep, as you see, it's hard to roll things back if the tool that's broken is required to access the tool to do the rollback. A manual change of the production build path to a previous and known good state. As more of Cloudflare teams have built on workers, we have organically ended up in a place where Worker KV now underpins a tremendous amount of our products and services. Yeah. This is the dark other side of like the opposite of what Google does, where Google doesn't build anything on top of the stuff that they ship on like Google Cloud. Basically, none of Google Cloud's products are dog-fooded at all, where Cloudflare is deeply dog-fooding their stuff. Like they use KV for almost everything they do internally, which is why everything goes down when KV dies. The incident has continued to reinforce the need for us to revisit how we can reduce the blast radius of critical dependencies, which includes improving the sophistication of our deployment tooling, its ease of use for internal teams, and product-level controls for the dependencies. We're prioritizing these efforts to ensure that there is not a repeat of this incident. This also reinforces the need for Cloudflare to improve the tooling and the safety of said tooling around progressive deployments of workers' applications internally and for customers. This includes, but is not limited to, the below list of key follow-up actions. Onboard KV deployments to standardized worker deployment models, which use automated systems for impact detection and recovery. Ensure that the rollback process has access to a known good deployment identifier and that it works when Cloudflare Access is down. Add pre-checks to deployments, which will validate input parameters to ensure version mismatches don't propagate to production environments. Harden the progressive deployment tooling to operate in a way that is designed for multi-tenancy. The current design assumes a single tenant model. Good luck moving off that. I trust they can. That's always really scary. Add additional validation to progressive deployment scripts to verify that deployment matches the app environment, production, staging, etc. Again, we're extremely sorry this incident occurred and take the impact of this incident on our customers extremely seriously. And then a random ad at the bottom. Good stuff. Scary outage. Clearly, they learned a lot from it. Many services were affected, ours included. And again, like this was bad enough that NPM went down with it. I can't remember the last time NPM was down for more than like 30 seconds, much less 30 minutes. And it just comes to show you how much importance there are on these individual pieces of technology. It's crazy to think that between Cloudflare and AWS, like 70% or more of the internet is covered. And once those things start going down, we have problems. But at the same time, having these dedicated teams focus on making the most reliable thing does make all of our services more reliable as a result. There's a scary balance to be struck here, and we definitely saw the weaker side of the centralization argument here, both with Cloudflare taking their own internal stuff down so they couldn't fix the issues, but also with us as developers relying on Cloudflare so heavily. I don't really know what the right answer is to this, and I really don't think it's everyone rolling their own infrastructure. But finding a balance between the services we rely on and the things that we roll ourselves to continue to keep the internet functioning is really important. And I am thankful the Cloudflare team works as hard as they do to address these things when they happen. Thank you guys for taking the time to listen to this. If you want to see how I handled an outage recently, I'll pin a video in the corner about upload thing going down for a little bit a couple weeks ago. That was a fun one. And as I said before, outages happen everywhere, and we got to learn from them as best we can. Thank you guys as always. Appreciate y'all a ton. Peace, nerds.